basically, you don't want to be in a situation where all your attention is on something else that's not on the flight. So part of your pre-flight setups is handling whatever you need to handle so you can arrive on the hill tension-free. So whatever that is in your own personal life, it's being familiar with the site, reading the site briefings, checking the weather, checking your kit. Just get everything packed, get it all ready. Make sure you've got your helmet, you've got your gloves, whatever you need to fly with, you've packed your sandwiches, you've got your bottle of water, all those sort of things. They sound silly, but I've seen people arrive on the hill and they don't have helmets. I've seen people turn up, open their boot, and find there's not a wing in the back. These things happen. So just spend a bit of time. I've done it. I've arrived on the hill and I've forgotten to check. I've charged stuff, and I've had my vario's not been charged. It's like you still fly, but it's just like it's something you've got attention on. You don't want to have attention on, basically. So whatever you need to do for that, whether it's a little mental checklist, a physical checklist, a visual checklist, whatever you do, get yourself a little routine the night before you go flying so everything's ready. So you're not in a mad rush the next day. It'll just help. It just means you arrive a bit more chilled out, which is what you're after. So your part of pre-flight as well is you arrive on the hill, and the first thing you do when you get there is a site inspection. And depending on how familiar you are with the hill, your level of experience, your site inspection can be a few minutes, it could be half an hour. It's like one of the things I recommend to people is if you haven't done, for example, if you haven't done much slope landing and you're going to the Dyke or Bo Peep or Phil's a bit of I wouldn't bother slope landing at Phil, but we'll throw it in the mix. Or High and Over, all these places. Actually, walk down and have a look at the slopes, see what's on them. Have a look at, well, if you have to slope land, what exactly are you slope landing on? Probably kind of the only exception to that is probably Cavan, where you can see the slope. You can see on the west training slope, it's fine. But all the other ones, you kind of need to know what's happening on the slopes at Devil's Dyke. Has someone just chopped down some bushes? Are they grown bigger? Bo Peep is like notorious for the length of grass. The grass can be like 3 feet high on the slope. You have no idea what's happening underneath it. So that's part of your site inspection. It's taking a look and seeing what's happening. And then look and see. We've arrived at, it's like we all turned up at Phil once, and there was a brand new fence down the field that wasn't there the last time we were there. Or Bo Peep, where the takeoff is, and you've got the little sort of dog leg where most people launch from. Well, that vanished for a while because they decided overnight they were just going to fence straight across it. So we sort of turned up, and the takeoff area was no longer the takeoff area. So these things happen. And then the other thing you'll find, for example, like at Devil's Dyke, don't go down to the landing field, but go to a point where you can see it and see what the farmer's dumped in there. I mean, he's notorious for shoving tractors and obstacles and things in the landing field just randomly. So you need to know all this stuff. So this is all part of, when you arrive on the hill, don't be in such a rush. It's just like, oh, got to unpack and fly. It's no, take a look, see what's happening. Look at the weather, look at what's happening with the winds. All these factors. Just inspect the area you're going to be flying in, basically. And it may be you actually decide you're not going to fly. It might be too light, it might be too strong, it might be too busy. That's part of your assessment of it. So there's quite a lot of factors, and I mean all this is before you've even unpacked your bag. So once you get on the hill, one of the key parts of the pre-flight assessment is obviously wind conditions. What is happening with the wind? Which way is it blowing? How strong is it? Is it, what sort of flying are you going to do today? Can you ridge soar? Is it strong enough to keep you up? Is there just a small amount of lift so everybody's crammed into the same 20 or 30 feet of air? So just look at what's happening and make your assessment of how safe it is for you to fly, basically. So we'll assume you've got all that. But then going to look at, so in terms of wind, wind is very key. I tend to categorize wind into 4 things. Basically, there's what I call okay wind. Now, this is very subjective and it varies from person to person. Basically, okay wind means that you can keep, you can basically comfortably ground handle. You can get the wing up above your head and you can keep it there. And that's for depending on your wing, your skill level, that whatever range of wind that is for you, that's a comfortable level of wind. It basically, you can get your wing up, you're not going to get dragged, you've got time to launch properly, inspect the wing, all these things. So this is probably the sort of safest, quote unquote, wind strength. And if it's lighter than that, like you pull the wing won't stay up, it's dropping down, that's then a light wind. And again, sorry, I've got submit. So rather than thinking of it in terms of, well, is that 4 miles an hour or 5 miles an hour or 6 miles? I don't tend to get too much into that. Look at it in terms of your skill level of what wind strength, what range of winds are you comfortable with the wing above your head. It's a simple test. Can you pop the wing up and keep it there? If it's stronger than that, it's like you try to get the wing up and you're going to get pulled a bit. You kind of think, I've just got to get the wing up and go. That's stronger wind. And then thrown into the mix of all that is gusts. So obviously, once the wind gets to kind of getting towards top end, then gusts become crucial because you're now going to go from the point where it's comfortable to being pulled. So that has its own set of issues in terms of launching, and that's probably the ones you're going to have the most difficulty taking off in. It's where the wind is, it seems okay, so you're tempted to get the wing up, but then it gusts through every now and then, and it's too strong for you. And that's where you kind of have to make a judgment call on, do you actually want to be flying in those conditions? Can you handle your wing? Can you control it? Can you stop it from dragging and rolling up and, because pulling you around? Because bear in mind that even if you launch, you do have to land at some point. And you're going to have to land in those conditions. So it's to take a really, take a good look at that. There are various connected with each of the wind strengths. You kind of various levels of safety, danger, whatever, however you want to look at it. If you've got, as I say, probably again, safe is always a very difficult word to use, but the area where you're probably least likely to get in trouble are that mid-range of wind where you can stand there, wing above your head. Why? Because you've got enough time to check the wing. You can make sure that there's no knots in the lines. The wing looks good. You can look around. You can see that it's clear to launch. So you've got time to do things. If you're in a light wind and you're now into, the light wind, you can't keep it up. So you're now looking at having to do forward launches. As soon as you get into forward launch, then you now have a whole set of other issues that come up. Log in. So, quick question here, just a quick show of hands or whatever you want to do. How many of you are comfortable with forward launching? Iffy, yeah, okay. How many of you actually practice forward launching is a probably more relevant question. It's something that UK pilots are notoriously bad at. We're used to stronger conditions, we're used to reverse launching, and we're not the best forward launchers. And it's probably for you guys, low air time, you're probably thinking, well, why am I going to forward launch? For a forward launch, the wind's that light, I'm just doing it top to bottom. There'll be conditions where there are thermals that the only way to get up the hill is to forward launch. So if it is light and you don't know what else to do, practice forward launches. You don't actually have to take off, but get the wing set up. Remember where your hands go, and just practice just a little run forward, bring the wing up, let it drop back again. Just do that 4 or 5 times, just so you know how to do your forward launch. There will be conditions, you might be on a mountain, on a hill, where you have to forward launch. And the first time to practice forward launching is not when you need to, it's before you need to, like all paragliding stuff. So, there are various issues with forward launching. So just do practice. I mean, it's the safest thing to practice, because if you're not taking off, it's no strong wind. The worst that's going to happen is the wing isn't, you're going to find it's not quite right. You can straighten out and have another go. So that's probably the least dangerous of things you can do. Standard launching. So now you've got the wing above your head. You're stood there, and if you can comfortably ground handle and do that, take a little bit of time. Don't take a couple of minutes, have a look around, check your airspace, look at when you can launch. The only thing I will say, the biggest danger when a wind's like that is what people don't look for are other pilots coming into land. And so the thing to watch out for is if you stood on the hill, wing above your head, before you put the wing above your head, make sure your airspace is clear and you don't have somebody trying to come into land near you, that could get it fouling in your wing. It won't cause you a lot of problems, but you could severely harm that person coming in. Knocking someone out of the sky with your wing ain't funny. I've seen it happen. I've seen people wrapped up in wings just off the ground and splatting into the ground. It's a fall from like 15 feet from a pilot. It can cripple them basically. So definitely take care on that. And then the other thing is just in terms of timing your launches. On a busy site, you're obviously going to watch the track of pilots going backwards and forwards, and you have to judge when to go for it. And just allow for how long it takes. You think, well, how long it takes me to run down there? Where will they be by the time I get there? Do I have the space to turn? What's going to happen when I get there, basically? So generally, a quick question. Has anyone got any questions about launching, about the sites? We're just going to stick with that area of wind strength and launches at the moment.
Hi, John. This is Yves. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Yves.
Can you tell us how you assess wind gradients?
At what level? At what height?
Well, either above or below where takeoff is. Okay,
so generally, what you're going to find is you will not be the first person in the air. So what you will have is other pilots in the air. And one of the best things to do is actually watch somebody else launch and watch the change of speed of the glider. So because truth of the matter is the only real way you can tell what's happening at different heights is to see something at that height and how it's moving. So so what I will do when I'm stood on the hill is I'll take a look. I'll look at different pilots at different heights. I'll watch their ground speed. I'll watch, well, what happens when they turn? What happens when they push away from the hill? What happens when they come back to the hill? What's their relative change in speed? And that'll tell you what's happening at that height with the wind. If there's no one at that height, you're not going to find out till you get there. It's a simple truth of the matter. Unless there's birds. I mean, if there's birds thermaling, birds will track with the wind speed generally. If they're in a thermal, you can see, well, as they turn, what happens? Are they being pushed back fast, being pushed back slow? Again, it will give you an idea of what the wind is, what's happening with the wind at the different levels. So, I mean, if you want to get very technical, get some idea by looking at things like soundings, what's supposed to be happening at different levels, but generally, observation. You know, it's unlikely that you guys are going to be the first pilots off the hill. It's unlikely that you're going to be the first high pilot going up. I'm not saying you won't, but it's just less likely. So use the pilots in the air. You know, yeah, use the pilots in the air, watch what's happening, and when you're in the air, do the same thing. I mean, when I'm flying, I watch other pilots all the time, not just to avoid them, but to see what's happening with the air. You know, if I'm flying with someone, are they dropping? Are they going up? Are they being pushed forward? Are they being pushed back? What's actually happening with them? And I will adjust. You know, I'll watch. Because sometimes you'll see someone bump through a thermal and they just fly straight through it. And think, thermal. You know, there's a bit of lift there, so you'll go and you'll use that lift, or you're tracking along with someone and they'll start going up, so you can slide over because they've got better lift, or you're going along on a line and they're sinking. So you know, great, I'll stay this way a bit, I'm in a better line. You know, it's I'm not saying you do that in one day, but at whatever level of observation you've got, use other pilots. Watch what's happening in the sky, and paragliders are your best indication, because you're about to fly a paraglider in the same air they're in. You can see what's happening. You can see how they're being pushed around and stuff. But yeah, and watch for try and pick out wings that are of a similar class to yours. So if you're on a B wing, like a mid B, look for other mid B wings in the air. Don't look at guys on an Enzo and see this Enzo sort of zooming out and go, oh, must be great, look at Enzo go. Because you're not going to fly like that. So, you know, watch what's happening with wings of a similar level or below yours, because that'll give you prediction what's going to happen with you. That kind of answer your question, Eve?
Yes, thanks.
Cool, good. So anything else on launching, conditions on takeoff, stuff anything you've got attention on you want to ask about?
What about, I mean, do guys, one bit of equipment I thought about packing, which I haven't so far, but I've got one here because I take it kite surfing, is a wind meter.
Okay.
Good idea. I mean, are people using these?
It's entirely up to you. I mean, yeah. I'll tell you me personally, I've never used one. It's not whether that's right or wrong. We've had arguments about this. Oh, you wind meters, don't use wind meters. It'll tell you it'll give you an idea at the height you're holding it what the wind speed is. That's what it's going to tell you. It's not going to tell you what the wind speed is where your wing will be, because that will be sort of, you know, whatever it is, the length of your lines above what you're holding it at. I guess it's my view generally is if you think it's so strong you need to use a wind meter, it's probably too strong to fly. And again, I would look at other pilots. I mean, look, I'm not saying don't take it. By all means, take it, use it. It might give you a sense of, okay, so right, when the wind's between like 10 and 12, it's starting to get top end. 13, 14, yeah, forget it. I'm not even going to pack my wing. I mean, it might give you a sense of that. All I would say is don't rely on it. Don't make it your decision, the thing that decides whether you get your wing out or don't get your wing out, or launch or don't launch. At the end, assuming it's not actually howling and you can get your wing out and you can spread the wing out, then if you think it's a bit strong, ground handle. Can you ground handle your wing? Can you get your wing up, hold it, get your wing down without being hauled across the grass? Can you even get to that point of launching it? Because if you can't, it doesn't matter what your wind meter says, it's too strong for you. And that's my only issue with wind things, is people sometimes get into, well, what wind speed is safe to fly? And the answer is, I don't know what wind speed is safe to fly. It does depend on the conditions, what's happening, and more importantly, you'll know what the wind speed is at that point on the hill, at that point when you're going to launch. That's all it tells you. It doesn't tell you what it's going to be in half an hour or an hour or 40, whatever point later. So the bit you want to develop methods of assessing wind speed while you're flying. What's happening? Is it picking up? Is it getting lighter? What's occurring with it? Because conditions change minute by minute. It's not like, oh, it was 10 miles an hour and I took off. It's now 2 hours later. It's going to be 10 miles an hour. There's no, it's not going to be. And that's part of what we'll look at once you're in the air, what to deal with on there. But so by all means, take it. Some people might go, oh, wind meter. It's like, oh, whatever. They can have their view. They can have their opinion. But it might tell you something. You might go, oh, okay, so that's happening. I know it's this sort of strength. All right. It might be good.
I suppose, no, it's a really, really helpful answer. And it's sort of the same theory would apply to kite surfing, to be honest. I barely use it, which is why I thought I'd put it in my paragliding bag. But it actually brings to mind, maybe a good use of it is to compare what a forecast might say to what the actual is. So then, for the future, you could say, well, that forecast actually is flyable, whereas I thought maybe it was a bit too strong on the forecast or something. Yeah. I mean, not maybe the forecast, almost like an actual. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that will come from getting familiar with sites, from looking at forecasts, turning up. Bo Peep is notorious for that, where you look at a forecast, it says it's going to be 8 miles an hour. 8 miles an hour, that's great. You get there, it's blown out. Why is it blown out? And it has its own particular topology, Bo Peep, where the wind, comes off sort of the Eastbourne Hastings area. It comes off the flats, it hits Bo Peep, and it just accelerates on the way. But it's generally faster and stronger than whatever the Met says it's going to be. Unless it's light, and it says 5. Well, if it's be stronger and faster, it'd be just right, but you get there is no bloody wind at all. So a lot of it is, by all means do that. If that gives you a bit more understanding of what's going on, then use it. That's always my advice. But it is very much, I'm very much in favour of people looking at weather reports, looking at what's happening, then turning up on a site and seeing, well, how did it compare? It said this. What happened? It's good to do that. It does. You start to get to know what works, what doesn't work. Or you'll be like me. You'll turn up anyway. Just see it might be on.
Okay, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Do you use weather stations reports before you travel to a site? And if so, which ones?
I will. Well, okay. Well, the night before, I've kind of narrowed it down to 2 for me. I use the Met and I use RAS.
Sorry, no, not forecast stations. If you actuals.
Actual stations. I don't. Other pilots do. like Lasham is one of the ones that I think people use a lot. It's down to you. I mean, I would take a look. Generally, I find the Met, for general flying, the Met Office is good enough. It's pretty accurate. You know, it gives you, like for the day, an hour by hour breakdown. I've, you know, and it's like, for example, for Devil's Dyke, I use, if you go onto the Met and put in Truly, they'll give you a weather report for Truly. Don't use Brighton as a weather report for the Dyke. It's too close to the sea. It's pointless. But Truly works very well. If you look at the Truly report, it'll tell you, you'll get a good idea of when it's the wind changing, north, northwest, what's happening, and that's easy to extrapolate. I think they've got one for Ditchling as well. For Caban, I use Lewis. That's close enough. In fact, Lewis I tend to use to get an idea of what's happening in that whole sort of Caban, Firle, Bo Peep area. Coastal ones, again, the Met is quite good. If you actually put in, if you look at New Haven, that actually give you a New Haven, I think it's called New Haven West Key. It tells you what's actually happening on the shorefront as opposed to just inland. I think the same Freespawn is one for that as well. So those I find are very good. And without getting into the complexities of RASP and all other stuff, the basic understanding of wind direction, wind strength, the Met. Plus the Met's quite good at predicting the gusts. Their formulas are pretty accurate, and you'll get wind speed, and they'll show you gusts as well. So you'll get like what you can expect it to be blowing throughout top end as the gusts come through. So yeah, I would use that.
John, it's Robin.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Just going back to wind meters for a moment, I agree with what's been said. Where I do find they can be useful is giving site reports or reading other people's site reports. So if you know it's 5 to 7 miles an hour, that's one thing. Someone might call that light, someone might call it moderate, and it can give you some idea of the variability of gusts.
Yes. No, that's good. There's a good point. If you, for a site report, you're then putting actual factual data on the site report. So yes, by all means do that. I don't.
John, I've got a quick question, if that's all right. It's Leland. You hear the sea breeze effect talked about quite a lot,
yes,
both positively and negatively in terms of the effect on sites. Could you explain a little bit more about it?
No, absolutely. Sea breeze on our site is crucial to understand. If you look, take a look at a map after this and just see how close our sites are to the sea. And I think we're like 6-7 kilometers from the sea on like Devil's Dyke, Firle, Bo Peep. I mean, we're very close. So what is sea breeze? So sea breeze is technically where you have the land being heated, which results in, okay, very basically, if you heat something and air rises, you get low pressure. Yeah, happy with that? So you have the land, air rising, low pressure. Goes up, it's got to go somewhere, it will push out. One of the ways it pushes out is towards the sea. It will go over the sea, it will descend over the sea, so you now have high pressure over the sea. So you now have a pressure gradient. You've got low pressure on the land, you've got high pressure on the sea. Air moves from high pressure to low pressure. So that generates the breeze towards the land. So that's the technical mechanism of sea breeze. So if we take the sites, we'll look at our north-facing sites first. So if we look at, we'll take Devil's Dyke, Bo Peep. So you've got Devil's Dyke, you've got a northwesterly wind blowing towards the shore. It's a sunny day, very few clouds, the land is heating up nicely, rising air. It'll be starting to generate the sea breeze. So you'll start pushing air inland. Now, if the strength of that wind is less than the meteorological wind, it's going to hold it back. It's going to be in balance, basically. So you'll be flying at the dike, while the sea breeze is building up behind you. Now, you can actually see it forming in the sky. If you, I don't know if you've noticed, if you look at the clouds, you'll see clouds with like sort of these tendrils starting to come down from them. That's the sea breeze front. It's basically where the met air and the sea breeze air are meeting, and you've got this sort of little, I don't know the exact mechanics how they form, but you see these like tendrils of air forming where these two air fronts meet. Now, the issue with sea breeze is that sometimes it comes in gently, but sometimes it just stomps in. It basically builds. It's being held back by the dynamic wind, and suddenly it overpowers it, and you just get this massive sea air that comes rushing through. And you'll see it. You can be on the dike. You can be in a wind that's 5 to 10 miles an hour onto the hill, and then you'll get this point where it will drop. You think, okay, it's dropped, and you'll feel this little something coming over the back, and then literally within a couple of minutes, it can come stonking over the back. I mean, the wind can come from the southwest, sort of 15, 20 miles an hour, just come howling through over the back of the dike. Same happens at Bo Peep. So if you're not prepared for that, you're not watching it, it can be quite dangerous, because if you're, let's say you're ridge soaring in lift, the wind's blowing from the northwest, giving you lift on the hill. That suddenly goes, and the wind comes howling from behind you. Now you're in, instead of in lift, you're actually you're going to be in potentially a katabatic flow. It's actually going to drill you down the front of the hill. You've got zero lift, the wind's behind you, and you're being driven down the hill. And again, I've seen pilots Bo Peep flush down the front. They've taken off just as the sea breeze comes through. They're soaring, and they just go straight down the front. There is zero lift now. It's like there's nothing there. It's just hammered down. So it's it's something to be very aware of on our sites. And certainly, if you're flying and you see more experienced pilots like landing for no apparent reason, land. There's going to be a reason. Usually it's that they've seen the sea breeze coming in, they don't want to get caught in it, they're going to land. The other place where the sea breeze can be particularly violent is high and over. High and over has its own sort of complexity of land formation. You've got the entire Cookmere Valley, and sometimes you can actually see the sea air coming in. You can actually see this sort of like slightly misty sea air flowing down the valley, and that can howl down there. It just like comes in. It's like a lovely Venturi system to channel the sea air straight to high and over, and that can howl through like quite viciously. And then the other place you get it, and it's slightly different, is on Cavan. Now, Cavan, you can already be flying in a southwesterly. The sea breeze is going to come from the southwest. So what you'll get is an intensification of wind. And you may have noticed over the last week, if you've been at Cavan, you've been there between sort of 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. Suddenly the air got really strong, really rough, uncomfortable. You went from being, oh, this is nice and soaring, to battling with your wing. Because the sea air just suddenly comes through, and it's rough, it's mixing with the other air, it's probably triggering all sorts of weird thermic activity. It's picked up speed. The air is really shitty. I mean, it really is. So understanding that mechanism and watching for it, it is crucial. It's really crucial. And speak to people on the hill about it. When you get there, ask about sea breeze, ask when it's coming in. So there's a lot of sea breeze. Go, well, how do you know it's sea breeze? And they'll go, well, look at this and look at that, and they'll point things out to you and have a look. But yeah, it's a good question and crucial for any site that's that close to the sea.
Okay, thanks for that, John.
Cool. Okay, anything else about launching? I mean, we're still basically talking about conditions on the hill, taking off. I will just mention Caven as a case in point about launching. Caven obviously is, if you look at it, it's like a small flattened cone basically. So because of its shape, pretty much the wind will hit it bang on in almost only one spot at a time. If it's south, you have a little bit more of a run, but as it comes as it goes southwest, it hits right on that curve. And it's quite important then just to really get yourself lined up, bang, like dead center on the wind. If you're slightly off to the side on either side, you may experience, you pull the wing up, and because the shape of the hill, the air is going to curve around it slightly. You've probably noticed this thing where your wing then turns, like you bring it up, it goes, and now you're being dragged. And all that's happened is you've not set yourself up bang on the center line of that wind. So watch what happens on Caven, and just get yourself lined up, just check the wind strength, whatever you need to do. Watch other people land, grab a bit of grass, throw grass in the air is brilliant for wind direction. It really is. Does it blow away from you, or is it blowing straight up the hill from you? If it's not blowing straight up the hill from you, move around a bit until it is blowing straight up the hill from you. So now when you launch your wing, it's not going to do as much of this. You'll get a smoother launch and you can take off. Anyway, it's my Caven tip. Okay, so any other questions on like setting your kit up, basically all the pre-flight stuff before you actually take off? All good? Okay, so the next phase of flying is basically launching in the air. Launching is the key thing about launching on a busy site is just watch out for other people. Just make sure you've got a clean line to launch into. You're not about to knock someone off the hill or push someone out. Let's look at actual in-flight. So now you've taken off, you're in the air, and you're probably initially going to be soaring. That's your first thing you want to do. So one of the things that a lot of pilots don't fully adhere to is ridge law. So make sure you're not one of them. I can't guarantee that someone else won't violate it, but if you guys can keep it in mind, at least you know that you're in the right. So basically, the simplicity is if you're soaring along a ridge and the ridge is on your right, someone is coming towards you, they have an obligation to get out of the way. They should not fly so close to you as to push you into the ridge or push you over the ridge. Now, so how do you handle that? Well, for yourselves, make sure that if you're the one with the ridge on your left, that you make a decisive move far enough away from the other pilot they can see that you've moved out of the way. How far you move will be based on your experience and the other pilot's experience, how well you know them, do you know them? But obviously, you're flying far enough so there's a gap between your wingtips when you go past. But the key thing is telegraphing, make the decision early. Don't get to the point where you can see the white of their eyes and go, oh, I'll just pull out to the left now, thanks, and skirt round. It's too late. Be decisive about it. So everyone's very clear about what's happening. If you are soaring and you've got the ridge on your right, and someone's coming towards you and you're not sure what's going to happen, shout. Make it really obvious that you're there. Shout at them. It may seem a bit unpleasant, but make sure you see them actually doing something to move out of the way. Worst case is they don't. You kind of don't have much option. You got to make a decision. Do you turn? Do you fly over the ridge? What do you do? You've got to get out of it. See if you can notice who the pilot is, and when you land, go and see them, have a word with them. If need be, grab myself or another coach, and go over it there and then on the day, as soon as possible, so that they can go, yeah, look, we were flying. This is what happened, and you can sort it out there and then. I find the longer you leave these things to handle, people just get what they thought happened, and what happened gets all sort of messed up. But practice that for yourselves. Yeah, what you're working on is your timing. You're working on assessing how long you have between the pilot approaching, when can you safely move out of the way. And basically, the less experience you have, the more time you allow, quite simply. Don't put yourself at risk. You know, if you've got to land, land. You know, if pushing out means you're going to drop down, that's what happens. You know, if I'm flying along and the ridge is on my left and I've got to go wide, I'll go wide. If I slope land, I slope land. I don't, you know, push someone out of the way so that I can stay in the air. It's not the way to fly. And the other thing is just to look at the conditions. If it's, you know, if the wind has dropped and a lot of people are starting to soar, land. You know, you don't need to fight with that mass of people in the air. It's probably not going to be that much fun anyway. And make the decision to land slightly earlier so that you're top landing, rather than leaving it until you're now at a point where you can't top land. So now it's getting a bit more panicky. You potentially end up slope landing, bottom landing. So now it's going to take you this extra 15, 20 minutes to get back in the air, because you've got to walk back up, you've got to launch, etc., etc. So my general advice to low airtime pilots is land earlier. Don't push it so much. You know, if you see you're dropping low, you're getting to that point where you think, well, if I turn again, I'm going to be below the path height. Well, then land. Slope, you know, land where you've got an easy walk to launch again. Because then you're on the hill, you're ready to go. You see your spot, take off and fly again. So don't feel compelled to do the extra beat. I like to describe it as the beat of death, where you'll see people flying along, getting low, and they sort of think, rather than land at that point, they go, you know what? I'm going to do one more turn. They get to the end and do this turn, usually in sync, amazingly enough. They do the turn, and they're now 5 to 10 feet lower than they were a few seconds ago. So they're now coming back slightly lower, probably could just about land now, and they go, you know what? I'm going to put another turn in. It's bound to get better. They put another turn in, and they're down again. Now, at this point, you're not getting back up. So now you're in a situation of, right, well, do you slope land because you don't want to walk all the way up, or do you land at the bottom? And this is where it gets dangerous, because, you know, a lot of our slopes, unless it's Caban, our slopes aren't friendly. That's why we suggest not slope landing until you've got a bit more experience. They're full of obstacles, they're full of ruts. The airflow gets really complex. Like the airflow low on the dike, low round bow peak, it's really messy. So you've got to assess that, judge that, and you're now putting yourself at risk of, because you get to this point, oh, to land at the bottom, I've got to walk all the way back up. Oh, I don't know. And the truth of the matter is, if you even at dive, if you land at the bottom, land on the footpath, it's going to take you 20 minutes to walk back up, 25 max. If you land on the slope and you dump your wing in a bush, it's going to probably take you an hour to get it out of the damn thing. It's, you know, the key thing is don't put yourself at risk in the air. If you're not happy with the slopes at all, you're getting a bit low, you're not sure, just push out, land at the bottom. You've got a big field, it's going to be a safe landing. It ain't going to take long to walk back up, and then you're back in it, and you haven't broken anything, damaged anything, and you're ready to fly. And then But then you'll start to judge it. You'll land a bit earlier, and you're ready to fly again. So that's where conditions are. You're soaring. You're not getting a lot of height. Just be prepared to land early is my advice on that. It'll keep you flying longer, and overall you'll get back in the air quicker, and you'll get more from your flying. Okay. So obviously, once you're in the air, the obvious hazards are other pilots. That's your biggest hazard. Other people in the air flying with you. So the thing to start, and how do you learn this? You just have to practice it. Try predicting where other pilots are when they're going to turn. Watch other people flying, and see if you can start to predict from the way they're flying, the way they're moving. Are they about to turn? Are they about to do something? Rather than waiting for it to happen, start to get your prediction level up. So you'll see people going, and you'll actually get an idea of, okay. You'll start to see when something's about to happen. You'll start to go, yeah, they're about to turn, and they'll turn, and you'll start to see it. You'll get your prediction up on it, and that's really good. It's not going to happen overnight, but it's something you can work on, and it will raise your confidence about being in the air. It'll just give you that sort of extra bit of skill level, so you can tackle and deal with all the weird shit that goes on when you're flying, basically. So the other thing that obviously when you're flying that worries people is turbulence. You're flying along and your wing starts bouncing around a bit, and if you are ridge soaring, then, and it is any time between sort of like now and September, you are going to get a lot of turbulence as you ridge soar. Why? Because thermals are coming through over the ridge, and a thermal, if you think about it, what's happening now? You've got this air blowing onto the hill. You've got thermals rising through it. They will cause turbulence. You're going to fly along. You're going to hit the thermal as it comes through, so you're going to bounce a bit. The air will be a bit rougher as you go into it and come out of it. So you'll feel that you're being shaken up a bit. So you need to allow for that. Now, as you get more experience, when you'll actually watch for that little uplift that's occurring, and if you've got the room, you'll turn into it. You'll actually take that bit of lift, fly away from the hill into that rising air. You're actually looking for that. Your first sort of breaking away from the hill is flying along. You get some lift. Is again, assuming you're not about to fly through somebody, turn away from the hill into that lift, push away. The further away you can get away from the hill, the safer it is. You've got more height above the ground to do things. You've got fewer pilots. The air actually smooths out a bit because you're not dealing with this layer of lift over the hill, thermal activity, compression. You're not in that anymore. You've actually pushed away from it. So you'll actually find when you get used to pushing away from the hill a bit, it's much smoother flying. It's actually more enjoyable. It's easier to do. You'll see it at Caven. You'll see people soaring near the ridge, being thrown all over the place, and then you push out 400 or 500 meters, and suddenly it smooths out. Not totally, but you're not dealing with that extra layer of compression over the top of the hill as well. So for you guys, your introduction to thermaling, if you like, is literally that. You're soaring, you get some lift, push away from the hill. Obviously, again, check the traffic, do all the things you need to check, but get used to pushing away. And generally, you're pushing away into wind. So bear in mind, if you want to come back to the hill, you're coming back downwind, so you're going to get back quicker than you flew out. So if there's a little bit of lift, and you've gone up a bit, getting back isn't actually a problem. So that's something it'll help move you away from ridge soaring and get you into being a bit further out from the hill. just thinking of restoring a bit. The other thing to bear in mind is wind strength. You know, the stronger the wind gets, the more you want to push away from the hill. Don't get in a situation where in strong wind you're kind of pinned above the hill, because it's the only place you can go is behind the hill at that point. You know, if you can push forward, you can at least come back. You're in front of the hill. You can come back to it. You might be able to reach the bottom now. To answer a question from earlier on wind strength, again, this is just me personally. If I notice the wind is picking up, if I'm on trim, i.e. just hands up, no speed bar, and I'm getting to the point where I'm not going forward, I will land. Because at that point, my only margin is my speed bar. So if the only way to go forward is speed bar, just before it gets to that point, definitely land. Don't just sort of sit there, gale hanging, not going anywhere, because if the wind picks up, you're just going backwards, and you're going to have a very unpleasant landing. So just check, you know, if the wind is, if it's a little bit top end and you're flying, constantly check what your penetration into wind is. Just occasionally point into wind, hands up. Do you have any ground speed? Are you still going forward? If you're not, you need to land, basically. You need to get out the air, get on the ground. You know, it might mean that times you miss out some flying because then it drops, but it's better to be cautious, get on the ground, and see, is it picking up, is it dropping? You can always take off again. It's not like there's no wind. But if it does pick up, you're going, yeah, great, I'm on the ground, it's now howling through. I'm glad I'm not one of these people that's flying backwards. So that's just part of your ongoing assessment while you're in the air. Okay, so other key things about flying. How many of you are starting to get into thermals and starting to get a bit of thermic flying done? Yeah, a few of you, yeah, no, okay. How many of you want to get into a bit of thermic flying? Yes. Okay, good. So without getting into, I will do a talk separately on thermal flying, but for right now, the simplest way, before I say what I'm about to say, are you all comfortable with at least doing 360 turns in the air? Anybody not comfortable with that? Okay, good. Obviously, okay, Andrew, yeah. So next time you're on the hill, if I'm there, find me, and we'll go through it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just about. I only qualified just a few weeks ago.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, so it's all very new to me.
Okay, got it. So you take that into account what I'm about to say, and let's say next time you're on the hill, if I'm around, grab me, and we'll go over it. We'll go over 360s and getting into it.
Cool. Thank you.
So I will go over that briefly now anyway, as a quick reminder. The key thing on any turn is weight shift. And one of the things you can practice in the air is weight shift. Forget the brakes, like obviously keep hold of them, but start to learn to turn by literally by weight shifting rather than by applying brake. What you'll find is if you weight shift first, and let me be very clear, let's be very clear about what weight shift is. Most of you, I guess, are flying harnesses with a seat plate. Is that correct? If you're flying with a hammock, I shouldn't have to explain this to you anyway. So we'll assume you've got a seat plate. So seat plate is what you sit on. So weight shifting is tilting the seat plate. All right? It's not moving your arse about or crossing your legs. It's tilting the seat plate. So the purpose of crossing your legs is to take the seat plate from this position and tilt it in whatever direction you want to go. Okay, so bear that in mind. When you weight shift, make sure that what you're doing is tilting that seat plate. And because that will take, if your risers are like this, and you tilt the seat plate, you'll do this with your risers. They'll seat plate goes this way, seat plate goes that way. And that shifting of the risers will start your wing turning. So to get a more efficient turn, you basically weight shift, now apply a bit of brake, and you'll find you will turn quicker, faster, and smoother. If you brake, weight shift, it messes the wing flow up, you don't turn as fast, your turns won't be as crisp. It's way less efficient. So this is key for thermaling. Now, the most important thing you need to learn about thermaling is how to actually join a gaggle, or somebody else thermaling. So inevitably what will happen is you will start thermaling because other people are thermaling. You'll see some people going up, or a person going up, and your best option at the moment, without getting into complexity of thermal, is to join someone else thermaling and basically follow them. It's your best thing. So the question is, how do you join a group of people already in a thermal? And that's what you need to practice more than anything else. And that's where you need to get your timing. And so you basically, with a thermal, you've got people going around in the air. So basically, you approach a thermal wide and come into it. So if they're going around in a 50-foot circle, for argument's sake, approach it on a 70-foot circle. So approach it wide, parallel, and now slide into that turn. All right. So basically, come in wide, follow their motion. So follow how they're going around, come around the outside of them, and slowly move into the same circle they're in. If you do that, you're not always going to get in the thermal, but generally you'll get into it, you'll get some lift, and you'll be in the same pattern. It just takes a bit of practice, basically. Thing not to do, which a lot of you pilots do, and some experienced pilots, I will say, is they see people thermaling and they do this thing where they fly straight into the thermal. And it's A, bloody dangerous, B, it's a pain in the arse, because the guys thermaling have to move out of the way to let you through or let you in. Don't do that. So watch people joining a gaggle. What you should see is you're going around, just approach wide, slide in on the side. Okay. Again, grab me on the hill, and we'll watch what's happening, and we can go over it, and we can even get to a point where, if I think there's a decent film, we can launch, and you can basically sort of follow me around on it, and I'm quite happy with that. But the key thing is then, once you're in the thermal, don't just rely on brake. You must weight shift. It's like weight shift is key. If you weight shift, you need to apply less brake, so you're keeping the wing flying faster in the air. Bear in mind, the more brake you apply, the closer you're bringing that side of the wing to stall. And you're already in rougher air, so you don't really want to be in that situation. Okay. Good. So, any other questions about actually sort of in the air, how to handle stuff, what to do if it all goes wrong?
Hi, John, this is Eve. This club rule about thermaling turning right, does it actually really apply, or not really?
Most of us do use it. It does help. It's to do with the first 1,000 feet, and it's not air law. Let's be very clear about this. It is just a local rule put in to organise thermaling, and where people use it, most of us do use it. What it does, it gives you some prediction of what someone's going to do. Now, I've been to other sites where they don't have that, and you'll be flying, and people are just like flying all around the place thermally, and it really is chaotic. If you're on your own in the air and there's no one else there, turn whichever way you like. It doesn't matter. There's a group of you, then yeah, turn right. It just gives some prediction on what's going to happen, basically. For me personally, though, what you have to avoid, what you have to watch out for is that you always turn right, because you basically want to be able to practice thermaling to the right and thermaling to the left. So don't make it that I must only thermal to the right. If there's a lot of you there, it just gives some. It means you can predict what's going to happen. You don't have people going right and people going left, and once you push out, you're a bit higher. Do what you like. Or if you're the only person there, do what you like. I mean, I don't care if you go left or right. It doesn't make any difference. So it's a rule. It's not air law, but it does help organise things. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks.
Anything? Yeah, sure. Any other points on sort of being in the air, flying? Anything you're not happy with? The only thing I will say is, if you haven't done an SIV course, get yourselves on one at some point. They're really helpful. In the absence of an SIV course, if you really don't know what to do, put your hands up. Your wing will handle things better than you will, basically. The worst thing you can do, if something goes wrong, you need to handle it efficiently, not urgently. It's not how fast you put inputs in, it's how efficiently you do it. And I've witnessed many a pilot in trouble. The wing starts collapsing. Rather than just let it go, just put their hands up. They'll try and sort it out. And they get into a panic, and you see their hands doing this sort of motion, and the wing just goes to pieces. It's like they just fall out of the sky at that point. Really, if you're not experienced, you're not sure, you don't know what else to do, just put your hands up. Wait for the wing to go flat, 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 bang, and sort itself out and fly off. If you're flying a low end B, high end A, they're designed to take care of you. They will probably sort themselves out better than you will sort. But having said that, get yourselves on an SIV course as soon as you can. Find out what your wing does. Find out. It'll teach you how your wing responds. It'll teach you how well it responds. It will raise your confidence in what your wing will do, and you'll feel more comfortable in the air, basically. So active flying isn't continually putting input. Active flying is flying appropriate to the conditions that you're in, and you'll start to fly smoother, basically, and not get with the wing. You won't get to a point where the wing does something like, oh, I've got to do something. You'll handle things in a smoother, more efficient way. So I would just say, it's a bit general, but work on efficiency rather than urgency to sort things out. So you want what's the minimum amount of input you can do to sort it out, rather than the maximum amount of input, basically. But hopefully you won't be in that situation.
John, I think the problem with SIV courses is that the Tennessee season finishes in July, and whilst we've got lockdown, I'm not sure what the situation is in Turkey, but it's probably going to be getting on for a year before people can actually get on an SIV course.
Yeah, I think it's unreal you're going to get one done this year, unfortunately. So all I can say is what you can do is by all means take a look at, like Jockey Sanderson has made all his SIV videos available on the web for free. Take a look at those. I don't recommend practicing SIV on your own. I really don't. I would only watch those to get an understanding of how little you need to do to sort your wing out, basically. I'm assuming that most of you are flying high-end A's or low-end B's, and assuming you're flying in air that's not completely nuts, you'll be fine. The wing will take care of you. Obviously, no wing will fly in unflyable air. Wings can't, no matter what your wing is, it can't magically fly in air that can't be flown in. If the air is completely turbulent, your wing is not going to fly. It's as simple as that. So don't put yourself in a situation where you need to have done an SIV course. That would probably be my advice. But realistically, you know, you are going to come across situations where conditions do change. You know, if you're flying and you're not happy with the air, land. Don't panic. Don't get into a big thing about it. Just get yourself down as efficiently, calmly as you can. Basically. Okay. Any other bits on flight? Do you guys have any questions about getting yourself going again, getting flying again? Anything is like, what do I do? Anything at all? Okay, good. So the final phase of flying is landing, which is quite crucial. At some point you will need to land, unfortunately, and assessing the landing conditions. I mean, we're generally fortunate that with the sub flying we're doing, we're landing close to where we've taken off, so we can see what the landing field is, we can see what the landing conditions are. You do need to obviously assess those from the air as well. Where the downside of where we fly is we do fly in some very, very, very busy areas. Devil's Dyke, one of the most popular tourist spots in the southeast of England. The Downs, usually lots of people there, but and there's lots of other pilots. So when you are coming into land, you know, give yourself enough space that you can land comfortably. If that means you've got to land away from everybody else, land away from everybody else. Don't put yourself under stress. Don't try and land right next to your mates when there's loads of people there, and then risk getting dragged or pulled or falling over equipment or whatever, or bumping into someone. You know, put yourself in a position where you can land comfortably. What I will say about landing is try and always practice spot landing. Like, so when you're coming into land, before you pick a spot, go, right, okay, my plan is to land at that location, at that spot. And then if you don't land there, you can start looking at, well, why didn't you land there? Was it a stupid spot to choose? Did you not get the wind right? Did you not understand your glide? What is it you didn't quite understand? And you could treat landing as a learning exercise of flying in terms of assessing your rate of descent, the airflow, conditions. And it's important because you know, as you progress in flying and as lockdown finishes, you know, you want to do things. You won't always be landing where you took off. You'll be doing cross countries. You'll be landing out. You're going to land somewhere that you've never seen before, not just landed before. So you're going to have to make assessments of that landing space with only a few minutes in the air where you're going to land. And that's where your practice of spot landing on sites, you know, comes in. It's invaluable because you'll be used to knowing, right, I can pick a spot, I can land within 5 feet of it. Great. That gives you that certainty. I can see what's happening with the air, I can predict the airflow. So that's kind of what you want to practice. Don't just land. I mean, obviously land, but you know what I mean? Use it as an exercise, use it to learn from. And you'll find it will improve your flying because you'll get certainty on how to land. The other thing I would suggest is, especially slightly stronger conditions you're coming in, watch other people landing first. Watch their flight path. Watch how they came in, how they landed. Did they land safely? Were they dragged? Was it a bad way to land? You know, work it out. And if the conditions are very strong, just forget about top landing. Don't be so fixated on landing on top that you end up being dragged, damaging something, hurting yourself, bumping into other people. Land at the bottom. Go to the landing field, just land at the bottom, walk up. You know, there's nothing wrong with that at all. It's, you know, if you've taken off, it's getting strong, and it can be difficult. Like landing in strong conditions, top landing at the dike can be nearly impossible. Every time you come in, you just go up again. It's like enough lift. Like you come to the ridge, bang, you go up. Come to the ridge, bang, you go up. So now to top land, you've got to get very low and try and scrape up the slope and pop over, and it's tricky. It's not an easy landing. So rather than getting to all that, just land at the bottom. You know, just take the safe option while you build your experience up, and you'll improve much more that way. You know, there's nothing great about smacking into the ground. It's not the best learning experience in the world. It just teaches you that the ground's hard and you don't want to do it again. But you don't really gain a lot of flying experience from doing it. So I'm not a great advocate of, you know, throwing your body into the ground as a way of teaching yourself how to do something. It's not advisable. So anyway, so that's, yeah. I mean, part of the reason I wanted to do this talk tonight was really just to encourage you back on the hill. It's sometimes easy I think for low airtime pilots to get a bit left out and to feel you're being ignored, and you're not. There's, you know, we want you to fly, we want you to be safe, we want you to enjoy the air, and we want you to do it for a long time. So have any of you got any flying related questions, coaching type questions, anything you want to go over? Yes, Andrew. You're not quite.
So it's just a question. Yeah. If we're on the hill, is it easy to spot who the coaches are? No.
Need to ask. We don't have banners. We don't have badges. We don't have coats.
All right. Okay, that's it's just a case of asking them. That's
just
good,
ask.
thanks.
Say, look, is there a coach who can give me a hand with something? If you're not, are you all part of the Telegram coaching group? If you're not, then request to join it, because that's the other place you can pose questions for coaches, and you can ask, is there someone going to be on the hill who's a coach? I'd like some help with the following.
How do we check that?
You'll either on your list of Telegram groups, there'll be one that says Southern Coaching Group.
Southern Coaching. Okay, I'll have a look at that.
If it's not, if you're on Parachat, go on there and say, can someone please add me to coaching, and someone will add you on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we know, John, if the Red Ribbon Club's going to kick off at any time soon?
We cannot, because of the government's regulations on group meetings. We can't run it until they relax that. As soon as they relax the condition that at the moment you're only supposed to meet up with someone from your household or like one other person. We can't be seen to be flaunting that, unfortunately, and we shouldn't be, to be fair. As soon as that restriction gets lifted, we will reactivate the Red Ribbon Club, and yes, we're keen to do it. You know, we like the Red Ribbon Club. It really helps people, and it's noticeably being missed, but we just cannot do it at the moment.
John, it was announced today that the restrictions would be relaxed from the 1st of June to allow groups of up to 6 people to meet outside, providing social distancing was maintained.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, so I didn't know that.
At least smaller groups of Red Ribbon viable.
Yeah.
And if you've got more than one coach there, you could obviously deal with 2 Red Ribbon groups.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I mean, to be honest, as long as it allows for groups, we can get away with it. Because the fact that then a group, people are finding it's a group. But right now, if we do it, it's like it's blindingly obvious there's a group of us there that have organised to be there.
That's the change from Monday.
Brilliant. Okay, so I'll look at that over the weekend, and then so for the following weekend, we'll aim to get Red Ribbons going again. The little coaching groups going again. I mean, I'm quite keen to do on the hill, like do thermaling coaching and stuff as well, where we go in advance beforehand, discuss it, look for thermals, get into it, and treat it as a actual coaching activity. So that's kind of what I want to push as soon as I can get that going again. And you're all more than welcome to join in. Cool.
John. It's been excellent. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah, good.
It's been very good.
Great, good. I hope that helps. If you have, I'm always happy to do coaching talks. If if there are specific topics you want to cover, you can drop it on there. Otherwise, I'll just make crap up and we'll go from there. Great. So that's fine. I think we'll end it there. And say if you've got any questions, by all means, drop on the coaching group. Please grab me on the hill. I'm always happy to talk to guys. It's like I think on the Caban over the weekend, I spent the first hour there helping Ribbons get off the hill, just giving them some tips, helping them to launch. It's I like to be as helpful as I can. So yeah, have a chat. Let's get you flying and see you on the hill. Thank you for joining in.
Okay.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.